Alright, we are here with video 5 of self-forgiveness, and I'm going to start this one off before I talk about the radical forgiveness worksheet. I'm going to start this one off talking about the practice of self-forgiveness. I talked about this in class as well. There is no difference in the practice of baseball, the practice of yoga, the practice of anything that you are starting out with and learning and then building upon. This is no different, especially because you've been doing things one way for a long time. So let's say you've been in self-loathing for a long time. Well, self-love is going to take practice to get used to if you've been doing it the other way for so long. So if it almost seems like an uphill battle to forgive yourself, I mean, it might be. If you're wanting it to all just magically get better, let that go. That's the Band-Aid mentality. That's the quick fix mentality. That's the mentality that doesn't really work. So the slow and steady wins the race mentality, that's what actually works. So I'm going to read something from Dan Millman. I'm also going to post this on its own in typed form so you can see it. And this was a paraphrasing from a seminar that Dan Millman did. Dan Millman is an author, and he wrote the Way of the Peaceful Warrior books, and he's also written more, but that's what he's best known for. He's a great author. So at this seminar, Dan Millman talked about if you got up to do one jumping jack each morning, that's considered exercise. Do this every day and you will form an exercise habit. The most important practice is to create the habit. Once you've established the routine, do 2 jumping jacks. See, you have doubled your exercise efficiency. It's a great way to look at replacing an old habit, and the blaming yourself is an old habit. Forgiving yourself is the new habit that you're wanting to establish. 1 jumping jack. So doing one of these exercises, and then the next day coming back and doing 1 exercise, and the next day. Maybe it's that you look at one of those lists and you look at one thing on that list. The next day, come back and look at another thing on the list. The next day, come back and look at another. And then you get to, you completed that list, and you come back and you look at the other list. You know, you've spent a lifetime in the blame, in the shame, in the guilt, in the playing small. You're not just going to magically not do those things. It's ingrained in you. It's your pattern. 1 jumping jack. 1's all it takes. 1 every day is exercise. Doing 1 little piece of growth work every day is you doing your work. Do it every day until it increases, until you become more aware, until you wake up more, until you show up more, until you show out more, until you rise up more, until you shake the earth more, until you see how much more you are and how enough you are. Big inhale. Alright, Radical Forgiveness Worksheet. And I'm going to make this pretty quick. I'm going to post this in just a little bit, just like I did I think I said Radical Forgiveness. This is the Radical Self-Forgiveness Worksheet. I'm going to post it just like I did the other one. So when you look at it, the first thing is, what am I blaming myself for? Well, you've already done some of that work. So now you know. You actually know now what you're blaming yourself for. So this worksheet could be one of the ways that you establish this routine, this habit of personal growth work. You could go back to the list of what you're blaming yourself for and choose one. Come to this worksheet. Excuse me. In step 2, this is again like the forgiveness worksheet, this is telling the story. So in step 2, what I hear my judging self saying to me about it is. Well, this goes back to writing out that mind chatter. So you've already done step 1 and step 2. Moving on to step 3. In regard to the situation, and then it asks you to circle as many of them as you judge appropriate to how you're feeling, and then you get to decide how you're feeling or what you're feeling toward yourself, your outlook on life, and in general, and then a space for comments. This is thing about, and it says I feel, and I don't agree with that, because a lot of these things are actually beliefs. And that I feel versus I believe, a lot of people don't get that. So, maybe Colin Tipping and I are going to have a talk. But, so toward myself, I feel or I believe, angry, frustrated, critical, remorseful, lonely, rejecting, dismissive. Toward life, isolated, inferior, stupid. In general, bewildered, discouraged, insignificant. And then it asks you to do a self-esteem check. And, 1 is low, 10 is high. And you get to put down at that moment in time what your self-esteem number is for you. And so then in number 4, you're recognizing and accepting your feelings and judging them no more. And this is the willing, open, skeptical, and unwilling part. Number 5 is the same. Willing, open, skeptical, unwilling. Then you get to do a guilt level check, just like you did a self-esteem check. And then it comes to number 7, where it asks you if your guilt over what happened is appropriate or inappropriate. So, did your significant other walk in and you just reached out and, right turn Clyde and popped them? You might have some guilt over that, and it might be appropriate guilt because you chose to reach out and pop them. All right, so say that you are moving through your house and your significant other comes through and you accidentally bump into them. Well, then your guilt is not necessarily appropriate, especially if you're really in blame. Maybe they spilled something on their shirt. So this is asking you to check on that. And then 8, all the way through 13 are those willing, open, skeptical, or unwilling. And then number 4, you get to release things again. There, you've already written them down, so you get to release those. And then you've got another willing, open, skeptical, or unwilling. And then the rest of it goes along very similarly to the forgiveness worksheet. So I'm not going to go over all that. Also, think that husband just pulled up, and I don't want him to open the door on our video. So I'm going to post this, and then when you decide that you're stuck, come back, ask a question, send me a message. I actually like it when people post on the group these things, because you never know when someone else might have the same question. And then you can help them out as well. You are important. You matter. Till the next video.